I think the fire has been lost.
What?
Dispatch, we have a vegetation fire and heavy fuel, rapid rate of spread.
We've had problems with the winds. We've had 30 to 40 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 60 miles an hour.
And it's jumped Highway 18 and is ripping.
50,000 homes are threatened up in that area.
Within minutes, 5 acres would become 500.
Fire was moving and burning homes down in less than 10 minutes. That's unbelievable.
There are flames and smoke as far as the eye can see.
The erratic Santa Ana winds had sent flames racing down the mountain towards San Bernardino City.
These flames, we're starting to get a little firestorm going, and we're jumping 40th Street right now. This is Panorama all over again.
350 homes lost last night.
Everybody on this block thought they were okay. It's real. It's gone.
Fire behavior has been something that we've never seen before. It's going in directions none of us would have predicted. Went through and pretty much took out everything in its path. One news van we saw was destroyed.
You can hear the numbers, thousands of acres, hundreds of homes burned, but it is hard to believe that this happened to so many families so quickly.
If you look historically at large fire occurrences in the San Bernardino Mountains, roughly every 20 years, the fuel conditions return back to their previous states from when they burned last. We're 20 years now. The federal government just came out and said which counties are at the greatest risk for disaster. Ventura, Orange, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Bernardino are the brightest red on their map. We're in a very disaster-prone area.
When you put wind, higher temperatures, and lower humidities all on the table at the same time, that's when we get into higher threat issues.
Thinking I could just tell the story right out front where it all happened. When I was a kid, I was an explorer with the Upland Fire Department. I started when I was 14 in '99, and by 2003 I had a few years of training, but I'd never really done anything for reals. You know, every single fire starts really small.
Archibald Group, go ahead. I see that fire coming down the hill. We're reporting Grand Fire northeast of N1 in Highland.
When the Grand Prix Fire started, it was topographically driven, gentle onshore flow coming out of the southwest, wind-wise. But then everything changed with the Santa Ana wind event forecast that was coming.
Santa Ana winds are one of the most notorious weather features in Southern California. Wind flows from high pressure to low pressure, and the stronger the pressure difference, the stronger the wind. In a Santa Ana wind setup, high pressure over the Great Basin pushes wind down into the west. These northeasterly winds flow toward low pressure off the coast of Southern California. The dry winds, they dry out the vegetation, creating fuel for fires or help spread existing fires.
The winds can take just this fire from the east side off the 15 freeway and ultimately take that all the way across into LA County to our west. I remember we had strike teams repositioned in San Antonio Heights, so I spent the night at Fire Station 12. And I told the guys open all the windows on the east side and keep the blinds down because I want to hear when they start rattling. And 2, 3 in the morning, they started talking to us. We knew it was coming.
It was the night of Upland's homecoming dance. I was just out of high school and we were called to do traffic control. I stood right here at a big stop sign. We had some barricades set up and we were only letting people who had to get their belongings real quick, their meds, their pets and stuff like that. So as I was standing here, a girl who I knew from high school, she was in my Spanish class, had to go get her dress for the homecoming dance. I let her through, she came, she got her dress and went to the dance, and she had called me the next day saying that her house burned down. Things can change like that.
You can see the wind is whipping around out here, and it looks like the flames were already jumping the retention wall. Now let's get out of here. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, get out here.
To just see the fire just consume from all the way to the east to all the way to the west.
I mean, I'll put it in weapons terms. You know, you have to understand when you align yourself with the barrel of the shotgun, that's literally what we do with a lot of our interface and intermix properties, is that when we have these wind conditions, they literally are putting themselves on the business end of that weapon.
So right now we're driving up in San Antonio Heights and entering what we call the intermix, which is where the houses are built within the forest. There's not a clear line of where civilization starts and the forest ends. It made the firefighting efforts here a lot more complicated and complex. Right over here is where the San Antonio Heights Christmas star was, right up there on the top of that mountain, and that burned down that night.
I'm just concerned about the large fire problem that we could have and the behaviors.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see what this thing kind of does. I mean, it's laying over and then it's going back up and it's laying over again.
Can we copy?
In the morning hours of October 25th, the Grand Prix Fire was well established on that mountain range just north of Interstate 15. If we spin this direction to the east, at the same time, a fire had just started in the mouth of Waterman Canyon.
Hey, CHP. Hey. I'm seeing a fire in the mountains just by the city limits on Waterman Canyon, 2018.
Report of a vegetation fire. Highway 18 above Lower Waterman Canyon. Highway 18 above Lower Waterman Canyon.
City Battalion 604, we do have smoke showing a considerable amount.
City copies, I'm sending everything we got.
It was all hands on deck. We had every fire engine that was assigned to the city of San Bernardino responding. All of our adjacent cooperators, whoever had the availability to assist with mutual aid, was assisting. It was very hard to get resources because of the amount of fire activity in Southern California.
City Medic Engine 225, I'm just trying to get an idea if we've got a chief officer en route to take over command. Medic Engine 225, at this time that's negative. I'll see if I can get you one up there.
As we're listening to the San Bernardino City crews fighting the fire, they couldn't get the resources that they needed because we still had an active, very active fire in the Grand Prix Fire.
You're going to be reporting to Divisions A or B, and that'll be on the west side there.
I'm not going through that. As the units came on scene, they tried to make a push up to start flanking the fire, and they couldn't do it. And it was just a wall of flames.
It's coming down. It's boiling. Everybody's heading out. Everybody's heading out of here.
As the fire came down this canyon and it transitioned into the heavier fuels, it got in alignment both ways. So as it came down and funneled down the canyon, it went to the left and it went to the right, and it was spotting ahead of itself. And that's when it blew right down into the neighborhoods where we started losing homes.
You know, coming back, every time I come back to these neighborhoods in the north end of San Bernardino, it brings back a lot of intense, really intense memories. We're not where the fire started. We're almost 30 blocks south of where we had the fire origin. How do we stop 5 houses in a row that are burning? How do we stop it from getting to number 6 and saving the rest of the block?
Yeah, George, once they get them cooled down and laying down, we're going to have to move on to the next one. Affirmative. We have 6 structures about to go up right now, so we're going to do our best right here, and then we'll bump down.
The bump and run tactic that we've always been trained on in this instance wasn't working, because we'd go to one neighborhood, we'd have 5, 6, 7 homes that we protected. We'd come back an hour later and find 2 or 3 of the homes we just were protecting and we thought we saved on fire.
So changing up our tactics required us to hook up to a water supply and deploy large diameter hose and hit the last house in line that was on fire and mitigate those embers, stop them from casting across the street to the neighbors, take away the radiant heat that's being impacted onto the adjacent structure, and stop that fire spread down the rest of that neighborhood. We all did it quickly. We did it without even talking to one another. It's what had to be done. And so that's where the term that we use now in some of our structure defense tactics is anchor and hold. We anchor to the water supply, being a domestic hydrant to the fire engine. And that's not something that we normally do in the wildland environment. We have to adapt, we have to change. And through those tactics, we were able to successfully stop the fire from spreading to multiple homes.
Can you give me an update, Mike? One-legged man in a butt-kicking contest? Yeah, I hear you.
The Herman family spent more than 15 years in this home.
More boxes.
There's not much left.
300 homes in the neighborhood that lie just in the southern foothills of the San Bernardino Mountains have just burned down to the ground.
Everybody on this cul-de-sac has, a personal tragedy, a personal story, and the frustration of having to put their lives back together again.
If we could emphasize to the public, the best way to defend your home is not with fire equipment. The best defense to all of this is to make sure that your house is prepared. To have a defensible space, have a ready, set, go plan so that in the event the evacuation order comes down, please leave. Your efforts in spraying down the roof or trying to protect your own property when the fire is rapidly approaching is not a wise choice. The old fire, you can see it went quite a ways both east and west. The winds were still blowing out of the pass, coming over the top, and that's what caused this lateral spread. Now, fire behavior-wise, the winds on the old fire were not as strong as the winds on the Panorama Fire.
The wind really woke me up that morning. I looked out the window first thing when I got up, and I saw a lot of dust and debris in the air, leaves blowing. I saw the trees leaning over, and when I saw the trash cans rolling down the street, I knew it was going to be a bad day.
All the conditions were just right, and for what we commonly refer to as a firestorm. And we had extremely strong winds. Humidity was somewhere about 10. Temperatures before the day were over were into the low 80s.
November the 24th, 1980, a wind was assaulting the valley, gusting to 100 miles an hour. At 10:41, the nightmare would begin.
Yeah, November 1980. About 4 months out of the academy, I was on a strike team assigned to protect Cal State San Bernardino. Probably the two biggest things I remember is that if you were facing the source of the wind direction, you couldn't breathe, you couldn't talk, and you were challenged to stand vertically. And then just watching the influence on the fire behavior. Maybe what would be vertical flame lengths and literally just bend them over and push them straight into structures. That was incredible to watch.
A fire that took 4 lives and injured more than 2,000. A fire that burned so hot and so fast that it leveled 300 homes in less than an hour and tests the limits of endurance for California fire suppression and relief agencies.
I've never seen anything like that, and I hope I never see anything like that again. Yet the profession that you're in, you know that those things can happen because they've happened before and they'll happen again.
Those that came before us and those that will be coming after us taught us some very valuable lessons about the efforts of public safety response, community response, the resiliency of communities to come back after these types of catastrophic events. And we continue to improve.
Well, part of the reason we're decided to shoot this morning in Lake Arrowhead was obviously the bark beetle, the dead tree issue that we're currently facing. So this situation that we find ourselves in is quite frightening. A lot of effort's gone into this. We are part of an organization that's being created now called MAST, which is the Mountain Area Safety Task Force. All kinds of different agencies, from, as you would imagine, the Forest Service, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, the Sheriff's Office from the evacuation arena, the Highway Patrol, Caltrans, Southern California Edison. And that's huge. that if you get the right set of circumstances coming together with the heat, humidity levels down, and obviously in this particular arena, the winds, and you get that ignition source, whatever it might be, we have the potential for a significant event.
Right now the winds are out of the southwest. Why is it important that the winds are coming up from the southwest? Because watch, the winds are coming this way. The fire is right here, moving toward Lake Arrowhead.
This basically is their worst fear, a major brush fire like this, and not having enough time, enough resources, and enough routes out, basically, and now they're confronted with it.
This fast-moving monster fire crawling up the hill. This is an area of enormous concern because of the bark beetle infestation.
The old fire compromised Highway 18 and Highway 330. From Crestline all the way to Big Bear, how do you get people off the mountain in a timely, organized manner? We have learned from previous fires that we need to not just put out blanket orders and say, leave and panic, but sequence the evacuation from where the nearest threat is to the threat that's least.
It's been a very difficult week. More than 100,000 people have been displaced.
I'm in a numb stage. I don't know if I should be happy or if I should cry or if I should just be screaming.
I was evacuated at the time too. I was working on the old fire down in the San Bernardino Valley. My family will all live up here. So we all had to leave the house for a week or two. Life safety is our primary concern, right? We put lives before buildings, before trees. And if we can remove the life, that lets us focus on the houses, the trees, the vegetation, and the surrounding areas. But it's a tense time to be evacuated from your house, but it does help the situation and help the cause.
Many of the mountain communities are ghost towns today.
Hello, this is Tom O'Keefe.
Thank you. Tom is very tired.
Okay, it puts me in a difficult position, Governor. This is how dynamic the fire is. That portion of the fire that was moving towards the desert has now moved west and is entering the community of Lake Arrowhead on the eastern edge. Oh my goodness.
Sounds like a raging river. It looks like liquid hell.
In San Bernardino County, the Grand Prix and old fires merged into one. At least 82,000 acres burned, and now new mandatory evacuations have been ordered.
I'm watching to see if I still have a home and if I still have a job. I live and work in Crestline.
Right now, the fire's telling us what to do. Until the weather changes, we can't do anything other than just try to react with it and stay with it. My house is just right over here. We're going to be to it in about 15 minutes.
You know, I can tell you that we have lost structures today in the Cedar Pines area.
Fire is on 4 sides of our community.
Running Springs completely surrounded now.
Yes.
There's so many places that are in serious trouble.
And the fire did spill out of the mountains, come down onto the desert, across 138.
I'm back here live up on the rim. We ran for our lives. It was just chaos.
This is the CBS Evening News.
This is a special live West Coast edition. Good evening from fire-scarred Devore. Winds now blowing from the west have sent fires racing into communities that once seemed safe.
You know, I've never quite seen a fire of this magnitude that's burned this hot, this fast, this large.
Officials now say the town of Lake Arrowhead could soon be surrounded by fire. Everyone's nightmare scenario.
We got up there and Highway 18, they were trying to do a defensible burning operation.
The firefighting efforts have really paid off.
They were doing some firing out operations along Highway 18. Looked like that was very successful. However, there is a new threat on the eastern side. The fire did jump in a number of places across Highway 18 today.
Oh, fire behind us.
All right, we need to go. Get in.
The fire got into receptive fuels and some bug-killed trees. And I knew exactly where that fire was going, which was Hook Creek. I knew Hook Creek was going to be affected.
Just when fire crews appeared to be gaining some ground in the immense wildfire in the San Bernardino County mountains, the fire took a turn for the worse.
This is what it looks like in the community of Cedar Glen. Firefighters virtually powerless to stop a fire that decimated an entire neighborhood.
For a time, the fire was so dangerous, it was unsafe for firefighters to even be up here.
So we made some saves, but when you lose more than you save, it's real frustrating. It's disheartening because you know people are losing their lives. They're counting on you, and you can't do it all.
But 40 years gone. Holy man. Look at this. Can you believe this? That it's still here? There was pine needles probably 6 inches deep, and I cleared them all the way, I'll bet you 30 yards up there. I don't know, all the way around this. So, I don't know. You didn't have any fuel to burn. I can't believe it's still here.
This was the bummer. It was like this, and all of a sudden it's hooking around, and it's like, seriously, we fought off, we were able to kind of protect this area, and then it started looping around the backside through the desert. It looked like it was going to make a run, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're surrounded. Weather was a big factor to start the fire, and it was a big factor that helped stop it too.
CBS News, I'm Steve Kathan. In Southern California, the rain and cool weather is helping firefighters, but there's still danger. CBS's Vince Gonzalez is in the San Bernardino Mountains.
They've still got a monster lurking out there in the woods between Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear, but it's laying down right now.
Fire crews are seeing temperatures drop. It's so cold that in Sky Forest, frost covers charred trees.
It's absolutely amazing. It just shows you what nature can do. The extremes that can happen from one day to the next.
We were finally able to start taking some offensive work on this fire instead of defensive.
The way I feel is I play heroes in my movies, but you guys are the true heroes.
When I drive up onto the mountain and look at the fire scar from the old fire, I can still see dozer line cuts that were put in from that fire and the Panorama Fire that come down the mountain. And then I think there's still people living up on the mountain that live there based on the efforts of the firefighters and the police officers that either did the evacuations or ushered people out, or the firefighters that responded into those areas so they can be re-inhabited. It's truly a remarkable place, but the natural capacity for natural disasters, floods, earthquakes, fires, it's a gorgeous place, but there is a risk to living here. We're going to have these events. The communities, the residents need to understand that when you live in this area, you need to be prepared.